Live stream now.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, checking levels. Looks good. Okay, this looks like the start of the 20th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And we're connected once again with the Knowledge Seekers from the Spaceship Institute, including Mayran Kesh. And we've got Armin, and I'm not sure who else is there right now. I think Marco's there. And
yeah,
hi,
and
Mark.
Ivan.
Ivan
Yeah,
too.
hello.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we'll hear whatever the latest news is. And okay, so let's get started here. Looks like our levels are good and things are ready to go. So I'll pass it over to the Spaceship Institute. Take it away.
Okay, good morning. Good morning to everyone. We're a little bit late.
Okay, yes, there's...
Side or
Okay, it should be okay now.
No,
I
it's
think
on live stream.
it cut off a couple times here.
On Skype.
I think it'll be okay on live stream now.
Yeah, I hear good on GoToMeeting too. But
Can someone...
Rick?
Okay, it should be working on the live stream now. Can someone confirm
it's
that
okay.
that's okay? All
Yep.
right, thank you.
It's okay. Thank you.
okay.
Go ahead, please, Marco. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, once again, good morning or good evening, good day, wherever you are. Today it's 20th Knowledge Seeker Workshop. We are quite a long time together, and I hope we learn a lot. And all together learn a lot. This is the last workshop before we will go to the holiday next month. We are on all of the workshops. The workshops will be continuing. And yes, if we look in the past, we did quite a lot progress in our understanding of plasma technology. We started with nano coating, then we produced GaNs material, and from GaNs we went to dynamic reactors, and we were done tests with dynamic reactors. We are still doing tests here in the lab with some new configuration. So tests are continuing. And in a way, we make a full circle from material to the plasma, and when we get plasma, we observed also the creation of material in our reactors. So everything is connected from fields to material, and it's important that we see this connection and we start looking on. We start understand physics from plasma point of view, from fields point of view, everything is started from magnetic fields, gravitational fields, and all the other phenomena are connected to them. So this is most important. I think that we have different view, and we don't look only onto the material side. We have to go away from material point of view and start looking from the field point of view. Maybe one very important thing is that we accept new ethos that was started by Keshe Foundation and Mr. Keshe, and that was presented also in the World Peace Treaty, where it was where we don't accept any violence, and we don't use this technology for harming any other being, even human or animal or even plants. So it's important that we take only amount we need at the time we need, and at the point we need, and nothing more, and that we give to the others whatever what we have. So this is some kind of universal rule. If we give our energy or away, we will get back something else. So I think this is the most important thing that we learn here. And this is also how plasma works. If you look to plasma, whatever plasma, either be like electron, proton, or plasma that we have in our reactors, plasma gives everything and takes only the part it needs and nothing more. So we have to behave in our life also in that way, that we take only what we need at the time we need, at the point we need, and nothing more. So last week we done some experiments in our lab with new configuration. I'm not sure how deep I can go with this, but anyway, there is some new configuration in a way sealed environment, and we observed much more control over our system through this setup. We observed immediate response from our system, our magnetic sensors are positioned in the sealed environment, and whenever we added some gases, we immediately get a response, and we get some kind of pattern of events, so that whenever we put gases in our reactors, we get response from magnetic field detector, and with this new setup, we have much more control how we can increase fields in our star formation.
I have a question for you quickly from Marek, actually. He says, what is a sealed environment?
We don't disclose. That's
okay.
It's not secret, but we keep it at the moment so we can show it. It's all been video.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is on videotape, but at the moment, till we don't finish with our tests, we will not disclose this.
Bottom, not the entire sphere. What happened with that reactor? Is it working now?
So sorry, I didn't understand question. Can you repeat?
I think it was Ivan's reactor, which was with the spinning bottom, not the entire core. Did that reactor work? Now they're all working.
Well, they are all working. We have plasma in all of the reactors. Yeah, we were running motors, but yesterday we switched them off again. And we noticed at Ivan's reactor that it was responding, that even it was turning. Ivan reactor has a plate, nano-coated plate on the bottom of the reactor, and this plate is rotating.
Yes, and did that reactor create plasma and everything else?
Yeah, that's the reactor that has the strongest plasma.
Isn't it the center of the star formation of the half reactors?
Oh, we did many changes from that time.
Okay.
So now it's completely different configuration. Ivan's reactors is in the middle as a star, and we have three another reactors at 120 degrees around that reactor. Two of them are so one is ceramic full sphere, one is steel half sphere, and one is steel full sphere in 120 degrees.
So you have the girls dancing with the boys?
Yeah. We mix them together.
I thought you guys would enjoy that.
Yeah. Anyway, we put them in the let's say sealed environment where there is much more control over the fields that are radiating, and we observed much stronger connection with the reactors, and when we observe different axes of magnetic field detector, we observed that first there was a lot of environmental fields, and then these environmental fields change in a direction that reactors are connected together. Let's say exit from 120 degrees reactors are connected to entry of central reactors.
So it's like that video that you showed with the 3 reactors and the magnets around it, how they were interconnected.
Well, we showed a few weeks ago, or even month ago, or even more, the connection with nano-coated wire from north to south, from north of one reactor to south of the other. But here we don't have this connection. There is magnetic gravitational field connection from north to south of each 120
right,
degrees
so
reactor. Yeah.
You've gone beyond the physical connection.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It's now magnetically field. It's now it behaves as a cell.
Well,
so it should be exactly what was shown in that one video with the 3 reactors, or with the 3 setups that showed the one reactor. If you spin one, all 3 of them move. So it's the same thing. It's a magnetic interconnection, or magnetic interconnection in this case.
Yeah. Plasmatic magnetic interconnection. I don't know which video you are referring exactly. There were many videos.
I think you just need to ask Armin about that one, I think.
Armin is going for the smoke.
Yeah, Armin has gone for his
Yeah,
coffee.
I figured. I thought he would have piped up by now if he would have been there.
Okay, I don't know if you have any other questions. There were many information disclosed in the past week and a week before. So from Mr. Cash, and especially from health point of view and how our body works. So these are very important explanations, and it's nice that we have opportunity here, that we see these interconnections between our reactors, and that's also how our body works. Also in our body there are interconnection in magnetic gravitational fields, and all our glands are working in this way. So we have to start looking also at our body in such a way that it's not everything physical, but there are magnetic field connections in our body, and we have to start looking from this point of view, how we get energy, how we energize our blood, how we energize our lymph, everything. All the connections are in energy fields. So from a magnetic point of view, there is no matter that cross boundary of our body, either in our lung or either in our stomach and intestine. Only fields cross the boundary of our body, and these fields energize our blood, or these fields energize our lymph, and so this energy then flows to the point of the need in our body. So it's starting of new looking to the functioning of our body and also to other phenomena in our environment. Okay, if there are some other questions, I don't know where you are with your understanding. How did you progress in these 6 months or so? But for me, it's now very clear what plasma is, what GANS is. I think we explained enough. What magnetic gravitational fields are, how they are connected, and I think that we've got this basic knowledge so that we can move forward in understanding of plasma and the interaction of fields. Wherever you look, either in the universe, in our solar system, in our body, or also elsewhere, you can see these interactions, and you can look at the phenomena from magnetic gravitational field interaction, and you can explain happenings from this point of view, and we have to progress in this way so that we can expand our knowledge. Are we still together?
Oh yeah, we're close.
Hi, Marco. This
Yeah,
is
hello.
Lisa. I have a question. Because from the knowledge of the point of view, I can understand all those things. But I just want to ask, whether you have I mean, not physically, but it's like your mind, like mentally, can you feel the fields now? Or I mean, the interactions between the plasmas and you and the plasmas, and can you feel the connection? I mean, in your mind, or your conscious. I don't know what to say, but can you guys feel it now?
Well, I can feel some interactions, yeah, especially with the people that I'm more connected, and I cannot say that I feel fields of the reactors very clear, but we did some experiments a week or 2 weeks ago where we tried to influence the reactors in our setup, and we observed increasing of fields from in our magnetic field detector. We were sitting near the reactors, and we were trying to influence our reactors we try to influence mentally, and we observed increasing of the fields, and there were quite interesting results of this influencing of the reactors. So you asked me about if I can feel well at interaction between people. Yeah, I can feel something, but I don't have complete control on this. So I hope that I will improve this sensitivity on the fields, and also maybe try to influence with my fields to the fields of the reactor. We have set up here, we called it brain, which is copper-based GaNs material, and this was meant to use it like a control system for our reactors. We didn't reach that point yet to use it. The plan was to have copper GaNs material also in our dynamic reactors, but at the moment
Loaded yesterday.
we loaded.
Yesterday it was loaded.
Okay, Mr. Cash is saying that yesterday it was loaded, but we didn't.
It's running.
Yeah, it's running, but we didn't start any testing yet because we were busy with other dynamic reactors which are gas based, and but the plan is to try to influence our brain here with our thoughts and to get results from the reactor. But I think any person, I'm sure, has experience about how the connection between people is. You can feel this connection, and if you're more, if you put more attention to this, I think you can improve these abilities.
Okay, thank you. Because Mr. Cash mentioned before that we will all develop the abilities to to see the plasmas, and our brain will also develop the ability to process those interactions. So I was just wondering, like, how hard we can be trained. Our brain can be trained like working that way. So
I'm sure we can train ourselves a lot with this, and we are at the start of this process. And first, we have to learn how to think. What I was already talking at the beginning, that we don't harm anything, and we have to start this with our thoughts, not only with our acts, but we have to start this with our thoughts, and that we don't put any violence also in our thoughts, and that's what we have to learn before we can go out of this planet, because life, other creatures in the universe, they already learn this fields interaction, and they can feel our intentions in advance. So that's what we have to learn. It's not so important, at least for me, at the moment, to have energy or energy system. It's more important that we understand this technology, and that we control our thoughts and our behavior in a way that we don't hurt anybody, and that we understand also where the energy is coming from, for, let's say, for our energy reactor. we have to understand where this energy is coming from. It's not important that we have energy from the plasma, but we have to understand where is that energy coming from. So for me, it's more important that I have the understanding, not the energy generator. I don't know if you if I was clear enough, but my English is not so perfect. So
I think you came through very clearly.
yeah, but the
I think you do
meaning
pretty
in the background, not the words. Meaning in the background is important.
Yeah, definitely. The feeling is important, and so on. One thing I might add is it is important that one, like you say, gains this understanding and so on. But I think at some point it's important to demonstrate that understanding through some sort of demonstration, something physical, something real that shows some sort of effect or some sort of result from that understanding.
You can observe these experiments also in physics. I think you posted or somebody else posted on Facebook last week that scientists have developed new black material that absorbs all the fields. So if you look from nanomaterial point of view, they are replicating what you did a few months ago. So you have this understanding, you have this proof. There were also experiments in Fukushima. Also, Japan government is doing experiments. And if you're following the news, you can see that they developed new material, and I think everything is connected to the material we are developing here, or actually Mr. Cash has developed. So
yeah, I definitely see lots of connections in the
there are
nano
connections.
world and the astrophysics and everything else.
They try to develop this new nanomaterial, but this how do you call it? These patents were released in March, I think. Patents from USB key. So I'm sure scientists are following our workshops, and they learned a lot from us.
Yeah, I'd say it's true, and I think one thing is the simplicity of it is deceiving, in that, you know, some of the experiments look very simple and almost childish in a way. A child could literally do the experiments, but it's profound in the effects that happen, and the ease and simplicity. That's the whole secret, in a way. It's not out of reach. It's not something that you need to have a $1 million laboratory to begin simple experimentation. So that's the amazing and wonderful thing about it, I think.
Yes, exactly. You don't need very sophisticated equipment. We are using simple things here. And what is most important, understanding is most important, not that you understand what you are doing. And I think we didn't reach that point yet with full understanding. More or less, we are still replicating. And also, when I'm looking at experiments on Facebook, people are replicating. Yeah, we got the same results. We got nano-coated material. We got guns. but we need to make a step forward and try to develop something on our own and to expand this knowledge that we learned in past 6 months. And maybe we need to sit down a little bit and to rethink what we have learned from magnetic gravitation point of view, and with this understanding we can do new experiments. But anyway, even with nanomaterials and GANs, it's quite a lot. Even the terminology that we are using, everybody who is following us last 6 months, I think everybody knows what GANs means, what nanomaterial means, what plasma means. And this is a step forward. And in 6 months, this is big thing. Okay, I'll pass microphone to Ivan.
Thank you, Marco.
Hello. Good.
Hello, Yvonne.
Well, yeah.
Good
Hi,
day.
Yvonne.
Again, good
Such a
morning,
long time.
afternoon, evening, night, whatever. Here it's almost 9 o'clock now. Well, I have been back to Belgium for the past couple of weeks. I was just here this week. And I'm happy that nevertheless I was able to assemble or help in the assembly of 2 of the 4 ceramic reactors that are now actually running as GANS-filled reactors instead of gas-filled reactors. So they are up in a small, well, because they are smaller than the other reactors, way smaller. They are. That's why I say a small star formation. Apart from that, in the past couple of days, we were doing more intensive tests than I had experienced until now. So we were kind of 8 hours a day, adding gases, subtracting gases, vacuuming, adding again, and that's to the other star formation of reactors. And we saw I have spectacular results, I would call it. On one hand, building up the plasma, and at one occasion, destroying the plasma, which happened yesterday in the morning when we added for the first time, not for the first time ever, but for the first time since we had built up that plasma, we added argon. And all of a sudden, the plasma collapsed from our total reading, something like 0.75 Gauss, and all of a sudden it went down to 0.4 something. Yesterday in the morning, the idea was that Mr. Keshe had the experience with the reactors that are nuclear radiation activated, that the argon increases the plasma, but apparently with the nanocoating driven reactors, it has the opposite effect. So then yesterday during the day we built up and built up and built up again by first vacuuming the whole thing, to remove the argon, and then we added all the other gases every half hour and then every 15 minutes. And the first couple of hours we did build up really fast. And by the early afternoon, we reached a new all-time high, whereas the previous highest overall measurement was 0.76 something gauss. Now we went to 0.77 and then to 0.78 something. And then we wanted to add more gases in it to go even higher, but apparently we went too fast, and then slowly the figures went down again. So then we left it alone, and overnight it built up again, which we saw when we entered this morning. So from that we learned that, you know, at some point you cannot act too quickly, and you have to give it time. Now, just one word about what you were talking about with Marco a minute ago, where Marco was saying, you know, the understanding is more important than having. In a way, yeah, I completely agree with that. But I was thinking, in a way, when you understand it, obviously, you know, you also have it because you know how to do it, how to make it, whatever. But then understanding equals, well, another word for understanding is knowledge. And obviously knowledge is power. And that reminded me of something I heard 20 years ago regarding wisdom. I asked a person who is very dear to me, you know, what is wisdom? And he said, well, wisdom is knowledge applied with love. And if you have knowledge and you don't have enough love, then this knowledge will be used in destructive ways like we see all over the world right now. So the only thing that is actually lacking in the world is love. There is already a lot of knowledge. Definitely, you know, we need more knowledge. But if the knowledge is given before the love is there, then it becomes destruction, which is what we witness. Then the next interesting thing, very interesting thing, I would like to mention is that last night Mr. Keshe showed us what he already mentioned in the last workshops, kind of announced in the last workshops, is the cups of life. So last night he showed us the result of his endeavors with that, you know, and I think that Armin already posted these pictures. No, he didn't, but he will do it. Some pictures of that. So what Mr. Keshe explained is that if you nanocoat, this nanocoating has specific fields. And in fact, everything that we eat and drink is just for the fields, the energy of the fields, and the not just the energy, the information of the fields. So if you nanocoat a cup and you pour water into it, then the nanocoating shares, you could say, its fields with that water. So then the water has the fields that we eventually need. And so Mr. Keshe explained that if you can devise a nanocoating that encompasses all the fields that we might possibly need, then this nanocoating shares that with the water that you pour inside. If you then drink that water, your body chooses which fields it needs and which fields it doesn't need and discards. Exactly like our body does with the food that we eat. We don't absorb everything from the food that we eat. Our body chooses which energies it needs and gets rid of the rest. So what Mr. Keshe explained is, on one hand, that 3 of these cups, because the nanocoatings vary, and to be sure that all the fields are present, you need 3 of them. And that if you drink about 1 liter water from a day from 3 of these cups, you get all the nourishment the body needs, and actually you don't need to eat. You can eat, but you don't need to eat. And so definitely for disaster areas, for famine conditions, and eventually for space travel, this is a necessity. I mean, this is a necessity. I mean, it's something, a novelty, which is incredible. On top of that, Mr. Keshe explained that even if 1,000 people would drink from the same cup, the cup will not allow any infection to be passed from one person to the other. I did not get I understood that, but I didn't get the details of how this works, how eventual bacteria or the energies or the fields of the bacteria are not allowed to be passed on from one person to another. So that's mainly what I have to share right now. I don't know if there's any questions about this at this point in time.
Hi, Ivan. I was just wondering, did Mr. Keshe explain how to make the three cups which are needed? I mean, how to create specific condition which would basically cover all the needed field in these cups? Is there a specific configuration of coating, or can we use some specific material? For example, can we use, let's say, mineral salts in the coating process?
Possibly, but anyway, Mr. Keshe did not explain that yet. It was just the last thing last night, and I don't know when he plans to reveal that anyway. So I remember that in the, I call it Mr. Keshe's New Year's letter of the 1st of January 2014, it was mentioned that he would release the cups of life so that no hunger would be in the world. So I'm sure that he'll find the right way to spread that knowledge before too long. I'll leave it up to him to explain that. That I don't know yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Armin has some pictures. Yeah, can you post them? Can you post them? Yeah. So in the meantime, while these pictures are being posted, if anybody has any other thought or question.
Yeah, maybe I have one more last question. What material are these cups made from? Is it copper or is it aluminium?
It's everything what you want it to be.
Okay, Armin wants to say something.
Hello, everybody. So I posted one picture. Let me choose a few more. Mostly
Armin, did you post these to Skype, or did you post them to Google Drive?
There's a movie that got posted to Skype, but it's going to take 2 hours to download, apparently. It's 30 megabytes.
I have this. This is picture. This is picture. Yeah, this is picture. Yeah.
The problem isn't that you're posting it in Skype. The problem is everybody that's accepting it.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. I think you will receive it now. I posted quite bad. Anyway, the structure of these cups, I think, it's a plasmatic fields that we can structure the matter that is going to give us all the spectrum of the energies, what our body needs. You know, and first we have to understand what plasmatic fields we're going to create, how we're going to create. Plasma is a new science, so we're just trying to understand every bit of it that we can explain it right. And you can see that it's a simple cup. When you put the water in it, you know, it will receive all the energies. Any questions? Yeah, it takes time, huh?
Oh, you put too many.
I put too many?
Yeah, that's why.
You said put everything I did.
Maybe it's better to post them on a Facebook and everybody can get them from there.
Okay, I'll do that now. Let me cancel.
Google Drive. Google Drive.
How does Google Drive works? I don't know.
Well, they've come through. They've come
Okay,
through
let me
now
see if
here.
I can post this on a Google Drive. No. Okay. You're dragging it. Hmm?
Okay, yeah, I should be able to show them here in a second. They're just all over my desktop, so I have to sort them out.
How you post this in a Google Drive?
Maybe do that.
No, hold on. Copy.
I charge $30 an hour, and I'll log
Yeah,
into your
Mr.
computer
Kitch, you
for
wanna
you and do it for you.
Make some revenue.
Unfortunately, you ended up with me again. So Arman is trying to load the thing. So, and there is today John is back home for holidays as of yesterday. So with your bad luck, you ended up with me till Arman can get this thing loaded. The position with these cups is that if you remember originally when we released the Coca-Cola bottle, for a long time there was a lot of discussions for 2 or 3 years or whatever around the internet and everywhere else. What is this KF, what do you call it, liquid with the Coca-Cola bottle? And when we explained how simple it was caustic, it changed a lot of people's mind how simple it is and what it is. Last night when I showed the cups for the first time to the knowledge seekers, the secret and the backbone with this cups is not the nano coating on it, it's the process of the nano coating. You got to go to the structure of the human body and understand how when you are born, life is given to you by your mother. You're suckled on the breast of the mother, which what you receive is milk, and milk in itself is a composite consistence of everything what you need to grow brain, bones, flesh, intelligence, the teeth and everything else, because that's the way of receiving the totality of what the body needs. Last night when I showed the cups to the knowledge seekers, these cups are in color purple, black, orange, what do you call it, yellow, whatever color you can imagine. And in so many ways, Arman wanted to know how you make it, because Arman is become our specialist in coating, whether somebody's typing something in the background. What I did, I explained you have to understand why the color of the milk of the mother is white. We call it the color of the milk, and milk with all the animals is white. So I brought the bit, or what I call the the liquid of life, which I build these, what do you call it, these cups in, and the color is exactly white. It's the color of the milk. It's not a caustic which you use and you've been used to. In fact, what we embedded in these cups is the memory and the consistency of the milk of the mother. Whatever you receive in the milk when you have a glass of milk, be it from a cow or being it from the mother, each has a specific gravitational magnetic field, and that's why the color is white. So I put what I call the container where the systems were made, and I explained in a brief way why they have the shape and the lining. And the material you can literally touch, because I showed them, I touch it, I hold it, and the material which is made the cups out of, it's very much like cream. So this is not a normal caustic that you've done up to now. To build a cup of life, you need to put the essence of creation in the original container. So these cups literally are the breast of the mother. As you receive all the nourishment through the milk when you are breastfed, these cups are built in the same kind of environment. Is not a normal caustic. It's as rest of the other things which I do, because we understand the process and the intelligence of it. It's very simple. So these cups are nourished and embedded in the milk of life. What we allow the cup to have the spectrum of gravitational magnetic fields of what the body of the man needs. A child till he's 1 year old or whatever does not receive anything but the milk which he suckles from the breast of the mother. So the what do you call it, the liquid for this one now is made in the same process, in the same pattern, and as I said, it's milkish white, and it's exact copy of the structure of the milk. So when you make the coating, each layer, each gap between each layer is totally and slightly different than the other one. So when you drink from these cups, you receive the full spectrum of the plasmas. This is what is the
This is the biggest hurt I've ever heard in my entire life, man. I'm out here.
Who's this one? Hello?
What happened there?
Okay,
Hello?
he is left.
Who was that one?
He left. I was somebody new to the group that I thought could benefit in understanding about plasma, but obviously he didn't want to.
I didn't hear what he said. No, it's okay, no problem. This is what you got to be aware of. These kind of people are paid to be in these places. They pretend to be. We even have a problem in the center. We've been sabotaged directly internally in past 3-4 weeks, 2 weeks, which is we will explain in due course, and it was deliberate to stop certain processes. And I'll explain this later on, but unfortunately, lack of knowledge was the better for us in a way of bringing more total knowledge up. We understand there is a lot of forces around who are trying to stop this process of transferring knowledge so quickly. As Marco explained, these people explained that they've produced a nanomaterial which absorbs 99% of the light, but the only thing they don't tell you, if you read the papers and what they say, is a copy of the Keshe Foundation key. I think their patents is valid nothing, because if you write a world patent and international patent, their patent is not valid, so they're trying to milk from what you lot know and do it normally. So don't worry about people coming and shouting and going. They're well paid to do things like this. On the other hand, what I was explaining with the cup is that the material is the material is very much absorbs a spectrum of energies and transfers a spectrum of energies. The reason for the transfer is, if you look at the cups, if you've seen the pictures, are the pictures loaded? Yeah.
I loaded on Facebook
too. These cups are coated on both sides. They're not coated on one side. There is a reason for it. You, in so many ways, receive only what's in the cup, not from outside it. At the same time, when you leave the cup empty, the environmental energy is received. One of the processes which I explained yesterday to here in the lab is that these cups not only you can drink from, you can put your food in it, and you can breathe. If you can cover the top and breathe through it, you receive the energy which you need is information which you receive through the plasma conversion. This process of breathing through the cup has been part of the development of the health section for years, and this is what you got to go back to the biological part of the health part of the technology. Your stomach is the feed to your physical part for energy. Your lungs is the feed energy to emotional and the brain part. This is something which a lot of people have never understood the totality of the work. When you breathe, the energy which is absorbed through the oxygen through the blood, it's mainly for fast delivery, for the fast operation of the brain. And that's why when you breathe through the cups, you supply the energy to balance the structure within the brain, and when you drink or eat within the cup, you feed what you call the physical part. How you can do it is very easy, and then you understand why these cups are made the way they are. There is only 10 cups made, and there is 2 more further cups to be made. I reckon that a combination of 3 cups will give you the full what you need. But as Armand said yesterday, what about chewing? We like to eat, to chew. You can eat and chew, but what it is, you get fatter. Because you receive what you need through the cups, or mainly receive majority of what you need through the cups, and now you chew more and you eat more, so you put more weight on. And Armand is a bit upset about this. He's got 2 fat ones since he's been here. So you got to understand these cups are not the normal cups as you make in your nano layers you've done up to now. These cups are made, they are, as I said, they're in different colors and shades because it absorbs through a total spectrum, and what is not there to be released to the body of the cup, to the water or the mud. You cannot wash these cups. These cups are not washable. You cannot scratch them or wash them, because then you change the structure. As Yvonne said, I explained why these things don't pass on germs. Go back to your knowledge and your understanding of connecting the wires. Even though you touch the physicality, the underneath layers is a magnetic field, and nothing can be stuck to these layers. So what happens is, if you have a germ and you drink from it and you leave it on the cup, as you've seen, you cannot connect 2 nano-coated wires together because of the magnetic field separation between the layers. The same thing happens with your saliva. So by just rinsing it, you go to the next process. You cannot contaminate these systems. The people who work in the nuclear, at the fuel and weapon technology, understand this fully what it means, because we use that in fuel rods and other aspects of the warheads. It's used in satellite communication systems at the upper atmosphere, because in upper atmosphere you have microbes and germs as we have here, viruses, which when they attach to the satellites, they can cause damage. So this phenomenon of separation and disinfection is well known, and it can be done, but those materials cost a lot of money. This is to do with the body germ, which is easier way to handle in the atmospheric condition. In respect to this kind of technologies and the health side, as you know, we have opened the doors of the lab to the world scientists or people. We don't become a museum people can walk in through. But when there are high-valued or high-level scientists or government officials who, by seeing our technology, will affect the course of their work or their governments, we allow our doors open. And we had one of these high-level top surgeons, world-renowned surgeons, especially traveling to Italy this week, to see somebody who knew us, to be able to come to the center to understand what we do. And we had him as a guest here last night till about 11 o'clock at night. And when I explained to him why in the surgery they do in the operating rooms, then you cannot touch the skin, what he has to do and how he can stop a lot of pains with his patients in loss of nerves, or if you cut the nerves, how they can reorganize that the nerve gets reconnected at the point of operation. And what he said was, why don't they teach these things in our medical school? And I'm 77 and I have to learn it now. So as we said, this is the same process. Today, as most of you know, after this session we close the foundation for summer recess, but as of after 12 o'clock today, the Foundation Center becomes an international organization which is agreed by several governments for next 2 days in a very high level research. This is a recognition of the job of the Foundation by leading world governments. So once the knowledge seekers leave the centers by lunchtime today, we become an international zone for high research and participation of scientists from a number of governments, not companies, into development and solving one of the major problems at the moment. So this is how we are moving. A lot of people who think we are just a, just a box teaching you how to make nano layers. Our work has been understood by leading world nations in development and solving problems. So they asked for this opportunity to work here with us in the labs for next 2 days, and it's all been set up over past months. And so we have entered into the next 2 days, we are literally shut down as a high security test lab for governments. This is how advanced the technology is, and how one of the biggest problems the governments have with us is how to disclose the knowledge to public. In so many ways, there is something which I know I have to talk about it today, because Elia is very much affected by it. As you know, we were supposed to go to Bulgaria from Tuesday next week for 2 days, and the organizers organized everything, and apparently the people who were supposed to organize the finances for all the things and what they say they could not do, and this is not acceptable to happen according to us and Elia, who's done a lot of work at Keshe Foundation in Bulgaria. And what they said, most of the scientists who they organized, they were hoping to be there, but they got on holidays for summer recess, and they're going to relocate it or reallocate it in a further time after September. So next 3-4 weeks summer holidays, we are still here, and we carry on with the teachings from the center. And the knowledge seekers around the world can join us wherever they are. I know Arman is going back to States, Yvonne is going back to Belgium, and Marco going back to Slovenia, and John is already somewhere between Belgium and Italy. Wherever he is, wish him all the best with his families. He needs that rest. He did a lot of work. As you know, John is the backbone of the producing of the reactors and setting up of the things. He's taken that role and he's doing a perfect job. And I thank him for his job, what he supports. He's through his work, as you know, he built 4 ceramic small reactors. That is taking us a few weeks now, and they have been loaded yesterday. I don't click. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was playing with magnets, no clicks. So yesterday, not yesterday, past 3-4 days, Armin, John, and Ivan have literally completed the 4 reactors. As Marco said, we've gone from gas, now we work in plasma, in gas, and now, as of yesterday, into a GANS state. So what we've done is we have chosen 1 reactor. Yes, you can post that picture. Armin is going to post the pictures for you. We have 1 reactor set up slightly higher that it meets on the top of the north pole of the other 3. And we have 2 reactors which are the same, behave as a proton neutron. And we have 1 structure which is 2 half cores. The beauty with this setting is 2 reactors are ceramic, but they have a center pin, no coating on the walls. And the other 2 reactors have a coating on the wall with no center pin. So this is the first time we have gone into the 2-dimensional reactor. When you look at the pictures from other settings we've shown for past few months, how we set the system up, we always have a base. We put the reactor on the base and we leave it where it is, and it cannot do anything. With this combination, because of its size, and if you look at the motors are very powerful, we can reach up to 3, 4, or 5,000 revolution per minute, because now we're dealing with the GANs. These reactors are placed on a 360-degree rotation wheels, which means the field's interaction will allow the reactors to move in the position when they are comfortable in respect to other 3. This is the first time we set up a 2-dimensional. And next step, hopefully, when John comes back, if he builds the Armin, or as a collectively, we manage to go to the next level of the reactors, we'll get a much smaller reactors, and they'll be hung, and then you will see a 3-dimensional interaction plasma reactors. This is after September. So for the first time, through GANs, we are testing behavior in 2 dimensions. The reactors are being put on a transparent plastic base where they can move any shape or any direction they like. Their field forces internally will decide their power. One of the major points with this is that the size of the reactor is irrelevant. These small reactors can produce as much interaction as the bigger one do, and even more effective. The GANS is a plasma state itself. Why we use the GANS, for those who are wondering about how it's going to work. We created the nanolayers, and then we use the nanolayers to create the plasma. The GANS is itself in a plasma state, so it's easier to control and develop. The only problem we have in this state is that the GANSs are very much in combination of matter and GANs because of the way we produce them. In the future, we have to produce our GANSs in a different, slightly way. We need liquid water to keep them suspended, that they stay dynamic. So at the moment, what are we, 25%, Arman? Water or 25%? Water. At the moment, Arman is responsible for this loadings of the ganses, so he's like a, what I call gynecologist and a doctor, forever sitting there with his syringes and pushing things in and out of them. And he's loaded at 30% GANs and 70% water. In the process, we can extract the water and add more GANs. But as in plasma of the other reactors, we only create one type of plasma from the hydrogen. I have to think to put it in the right order that you understand. In these reactors, we have deliberately loaded different combination of materials in each reactor. One reactor is, who's that? Sorry, they're just showing funny pictures here, these two. But what it is, that one reactor is loaded with CO2, the white material. One reactor is loaded with copper oxide. One reactor is loaded with CH3. As I said, some people who thought we can sabotage the work of the foundation, but in their naiveness, they do much better for us. A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, Arman spent nearly a couple of days making the copper oxide ready for the center core, that we could have a communication line from the center, from the upstairs to the core. And out of nowhere, the next day, we found out that in a deliberate way, the CH3 and CO2 was mixed into this mixture, that it cannot be used. And the color has changed to a darkish greenish color, bluish color. So in fact, what this gave us an opportunity. I don't see things as a failure. It's a stupidity of people who do these things. I saw this as an opportunity. He has the field of all the other 3 reactors, so interacts with them very nicely. So the stupidity and whatever has been to the benefit of the knowledge. So in these reactors, we have a mixed material of the which we produce in the orbits in the 120 degree setting, and the mother carries the whole information for all 3 of them. But at the same time, because the copper oxide came from the same source as the brain, which is upstairs, so now we have not only control from here directly into the in the GANS center core. Now through that we can control very easily the other 3, because the other 3 have their own sources within the same material. So as I said, as we set the ethos of this foundation on the base of peace and correctness, even the people who try to harm and destroy it, they give us a helping hand. I would have not mixed this so that we would have kept the copper oxide in the middle, but this is a gift they gave us in their stupidity, and that has been a help for us, and thank you very much. So it's just seeing opportunity in what people try to fail you with it, and we've seen this with the Keshe Foundation around its life. So we are not immune from sabotage, even at this level here in an isolated, locked up situation. We video everything, we know how it's been done, but that's for us to use it in the future. But that's their problem. They have to shiver under their skin and know that nothing is hidden from us. In fact, the situation now is that we have a star formation from GANs. Then we have a star formation of gases with plasma. And then next to it, we have a confined environment, the way what we created, sealed envelope, where we have mainly now, we work only as of more or less with small layering with hydrogen. So for the first time now, we have 12 reactors on the floor next to each other. And the reactors, the GANS reactors at the moment are running on the high power motors till we see their effect, because we had to measure their property. The center cell is sitting on its, what do you call it, motors shut down by the plasma's interaction. And a confined unit is switched off at the moment, but we switch it on, we switch it off. And we have noticed that switching on and off the motors, physical motors, does not make much difference in the operation of the plasma. So we switched all the motors off yesterday again. They were on for yesterday. I think we turned them the day before, or yesterday we turned them, and we switched them off again because they do not affect the operation of the plasma in whatsoever shape or form. There is a situation which we explained, that we developed a technology that we keep the plasma dynamic in between the 4 reactors without the use of the motors of the reactors. And so this process is extending to the point that for rapid response we can change things, and we've seen how rapid we can increase the fields if we need to in certain conditions. This is the next development that when we complete it here, as usual, we pass the knowledge on for you lot to do it. So in one way of a structure, if you look at the setting on the lab floor now, we started with 1 star formation. Then we added different systems, combinations. Now then we had a 2nd star formation next to the other one, and now we have literally a 3rd star formation added to the set. Very soon, hopefully after holidays, as I said, we're going to miniature reactors, where this and the step after that down, hopefully by around Christmas, will be the reactors which will be used embedded into the health systems. That, as I don't know, yesterday it was very nice the way we start loading the reactors. Each one of us is responsible for 1 reactor, instead of, for example, yesterday at part of the test, instead of loading 1 reactor and then loading the other reactor, or last week or the week before, we made a central feeding. We worked in sequence that while one was feeding hydrogen, the other one was feeding helium in the other reactor, and the other person was heating nitrogen, and the other one was vacuuming. So we have started creating dynamic plasma due to variation between the cores. So in fact, what I call the harmonic system, which is the backbone of the creation of the structure of the atoms, when protons and electrons and neutrons join in, or the structure of the way the galaxies stay dynamic is started yesterday here. So what we do, for example, Arman runs 1 reactor. He vacuums and he starts loading up the hydrogen. Then when he finishes with hydrogen, I start with the reactor. I'm responsible with the hydrogen, and then by that time Marco is vacuuming or making his system ready for load. Then when I finish, he starts hydrogen. By this time Arman is already loading helium, and then I load nitrogen. And this is the sequence, and then Ivan begins at the beginning of the same sequence. So by the time we get to Ivan, Arman is start loading the next step. So we continuously keep it dynamic, 4 reactors, because now a lot of people wondering how do you make a dynamic plasma without the motors, and this is how we do it. Now that we reach the plasma condition, by creating different condition gradients and different plasmatic flow in each reactor, as each reactor is connected magnetic gravitationally to the other one, it affects the other one. So now we have a very much what I call galaxial or interatomic magnetic flow. We don't need to have the motors to run. Now that we reached dynamic plasma and we have confined it, this is a very good news. We got a crow singing on the top. Always brings good news. So the whole system is dynamic through no, but now we create a dynamic plasma environment that they find the whole system. What we have noticed, especially now that we have gone into this confined environment, as I told you last time, we are in a pre-lift condition. We are pushing for lift. So till we don't achieve full lift, we see different effects. So we change things, and the reactors will not stop. All the reactors will be run during the holidays. So by the time we come back, unless there's a mechanical failure somewhere, we carry on the same as they are. So what has happened now, as you explained before, we used to put the wires, nano-coated wires from north to south to create. Now we have seen as of yesterday in part of the operation, the field from the boundary reactors is constant. So it means there is no field coming into the plasma. All the fields now are directly from the boundary cores into the center core, and from center core into the vertical takeoff. So what we are doing, we are adding more and more plasma pressure. And this from now on is not going to be easy till we get the balance point, and then after the balance point we achieve lift. What we have done is that we have secured everything to pallets, that once the lift comes, we can literally move on the platform, and we put a chair there. Armin would love to have the chair to sit on it on the left. So we are that much looking forward to go further. But scientifically, we have managed to create a shell. We have managed to create an atomic structure, a full atomic structure, where the plasmatic magnetic fields, now the three are feeding the center core, and the condition has been up to now till yesterday. As the fields of the center were released of the boundary cores, then they found the connection to the center core, and then from the center core we could see the increase in the vertical forces. Now we see the boundary fields have totally stopped. So the interaction is totally internally between the reactors. And this is a major achievement, that now we achieved a singular cell between four systems, that they sustain each other. And as the field comes out from the center core, its surplus feeds back to the bottom of the cores, and it gets absorbed and increases by the plasma of the boundary cores, and it gets back. So the process of the refeeding and to absorbing all the fields conservation, what we call MAGRAV conservation process, has already started. When we go to the next step, we see yesterday, as Ivan explained, we added argon in nuclear. Argon adds to the process. In this case, argon literally absorbed most of the plasma or reduced the plasma. I understand partially how it happened, why it happened. But this, as I told you, we always learn from things. This gave us an indication if in emergencies we need to shut down or reduce the strength. All we need to do is to add a dosage of argon to any of the reactors. So runaway situations can easily be handled in coated reactors through argon. By dropping the field strength by injection of argon, you dampen the power. And at the same time, it's all part of the process. The other point which we have been busy with is the situation with the production of the next stage of the Keshe Foundation work. As here we see more and we learn more, the next step for us is as we are heading for the siphoning of the technology back into commercialization for people who want to use it, is to go to the next step. We are still pushing with 4 more reactors to come in by after the holidays. The reason for this is that we have a structure here which you've seen, but you could not understand why the structure hangs around the lab all the time. It was used for another purpose as well. Is that I have to put it in the way that you can understand, because I explained this to the knowledge seekers. You do not know how much moisture is in the room till, for example, you put a plate in the room and you cool it and you see the moisture sticking on the plate, and you become aware of the moisture as you get droplets on the plate. It does not mean that the moisture wasn't there. It's just you created the environment for it to manifest itself as a drop on the plate. The next step for us as part of the joining the universal community is trying to teach and show you what these conditions are, and what you think you're alone, you're not alone. So the reactors in the coming weeks and months after the holidays will be set to create an environment within the box that allows very much for human being for the first time to be aware of the existence of within them that they were not aware of. So what we are doing, we are putting that plate up, but in a gravitational magnetic field, in the shape of a box form, that man can start looking into the existence of the life in other dimensions. As you know, we created matter in past few weeks in the reactors, and we've seen it, we kept the samples in the tube as they came out. But now we create the next step. I've explained this to the knowledge seekers, that once the reactors achieve not what we have in the confined space that a lot of you are looking for lift, I'm not looking for a lift. I'm looking for a facility and understanding of the system by the knowledge seekers, that now we create within the frame, within the lab, the same condition that for the first time man become aware of other creations within the world of the universe, within the man's environment. So we are pushing the knowledge to the extent that before you take up into space, you become aware of what it is and how you got and what you expect to see and how you have to do the job and to handle. So when we achieve the 16 combination, we'll make with the reactors a frame box in the lab that we can change the environment. As I said, when you see another spaceship, you never go in it because it's set up for that life, for that environment, for what suits them. Now we create the environment in the lab to create a condition that suits them to be in their environment but be the guest of humans. This is where we are going. We are extending the knowledge. We are fully aware of their existence, but again, like the Keshe Foundation liquid is so close to us that we ignored it. We never knew what it is till it was done. So the purpose of pushing the knowledge further with the development of the more reactors is to be able to create a balanced environment within a cubic environment, that we create a condition to welcome the new existence that there is not new, but for us to be able to see that vapor in a solid state or in a visible state, that we recognize it. So this is where we are pushing, and what you will expect, or what is expected to be seen. If we cannot create it in the lab, in the space, we will show it how it's done. This is how you become aware of others within the environment you are in the space. This is an unknown knowledge to man, but we open the books slowly, that what we tell you in advance, what is to come. So the next step in the next 6 months, 12 months is to be able to create that plate that the man can see the moisture in his physical form as an entity, intelligent, decision-making, and a friend. This is how you introduce people slowly into the reality of why the foundation is set up and the way we work. We have access to it. I can produce it today, but the man will not understand it. The same as what was in the Coca-Cola cup. Everybody wanted to high nano layer, but now everybody does it, and we understand the use of it and the peaceful use of it. My biggest sorrow is in past week is how these stupid people use the key we released, and they use this nano material, which are using our technology clearly from what they released, to show it in a farm bro, in a military, show what they can do. We know how it's done. We know the military application of it, but in a way it's a good way to show how such a simple knowledge that you lot are looking to create energy, the other people translate it in a way that is something you can do in military and show it in farm bro. As a lot of you know, my work in the international business started from Farnborough exactly 10 years ago. Where we are now is because of going to that stupid show with the military people. And now when I hear and seeing this, and people send me emails that they're going to show the most darkest material, this darkest material, we already explained how it works. These people don't even know how it works. They just measured something, as all of you know, and I think John has posted a picture weeks ago with those rings which is there, and the reason for it being dark is because too many layers, it's a gap, and matter creates a field and absorbs the field within the capacitance of the layers, as we explained. So these unforsaken people use this technology not to show it in a warfare zone, but there won't be no harm done. But this is what we say, this knowledge can be used both ways, and we've seen it. This is what's going to happen with the release of this technology. We know how to use it, we know how the applications of it are, we know it's the most stealth effect it will have. In my talks, and I'm sure you have listened to my dearest friend Dirk, we knew of this property years ago when Dirk and I attended a meeting in European, EU Center in Brussels, for a meeting which we were invited. We went there and Dirk put it through the scanning system, and they told him that this is like a Semtex, it's so natural, but it absorbs all the fields. So we knew we can make a black box out of this material years ago. And we know the application and implication of the military and terrorist-wise. So that's why we work with the governments, that they are aware how to detect these materials, even if it's used, because the effect of it is horrendous if it's used the wrong way. And now I clearly work, now that they've done this job the wrong way, we work with the governments very rapidly to put the antidotes of it in, how you can go through it. We don't teach you everything, but on the other hand, there is a way to detect nanomaterials even though they absorb all the rays. So now you've seen the use of the technology. We released the key, and now within weeks they have put it, and the process they describe in their work, exactly the process, but they don't tell that they're stolen it from a key, but soon their hand will be open that this is, everybody can make the same material. Is not a major breakthrough. The major breakthrough is that some 200 million people have already received the instruction and watched the videos. They know how to do it. Is there any other question?
I would like to
Captain Talk.
intervene. I'm in Belgium and I have been listening to what has been done. And
Who's speaking?
well, it's
Who?
John. John. Hello.
Oh, how, John? Where are you?
Well, I'm in Belgium since I arrived yesterday very late. And so I'm back here. Well, the things have been said mostly as it has been said. So my ceramic reactors are used now for the gas material. The problem is always the balancing of the systems. And well, I'm happy that things are going this way. Just one small thing I would like to have done. We missed one motor and we had to find another one. So we have still a little thing to arrange at that level. Anyway,
actually, I was looking at it, John, this morning. That motor is perfect where it is the way it is, because now it behaves like an electron.
Okay.
It has advantage when you look. I was with, as I said, with the surgeon last night in the lab, and when we start moving it around, and it actually behaves like an electron. So it was in a way, by not receiving the motor to be there on time and putting another replacement, it allows it to show a different behavior.
Yes, certainly. And,
So
well.
it is very nice. Thank you very much. It works beautiful. This is part of realizing the whole thing together. Carry on.
So, well, my understanding with the gas reactors and the link between each and what's happening there is also interesting in the way that I see better the behavior and the fields turning and going into the center. So that's something positive I start to see. Well, not to see with my eyes, but to see in my understanding. And those are the understandings that we are going to. And in the way we look at the values, I still always have a certain problem in my way of looking at it. The top values, I would like to have the picture of the field coming in. So sometimes I go into the plot and I look at those values, and we clearly see all the different fields, the global value. And,
just a sec, John.
Yeah.
Just a sec. I think we lost the Spaceship Institute. We lost both Armin and the Spaceship Institute at the same time.
Yes, I saw they were. Well, they might have problems with the connection. Sometimes it has connection problems.
I'll try adding them back in.
But all the others that have disappeared also.
No, just them.
Yep, the rest of us are here, and the live stream's still happening. Yep.
Go to meeting.
What's that, Lucian?
I said that I hear you guys very well, so you are good with the sound on GoToMeeting.
Thank you.
I see Marek posted he is here. I don't know where he is, but... Might be he is not in Italy.
Okay, they most probably have a connection problems, and the internet connection in the Space Institute is not always the best.
How was the weather before you left?
Maybe I can go a bit further, but
sure. Why don't you continue, John, while we wait for them to come back in here.
Yeah. So, in fact, what I wanted is to explain this. I have better understandings, and looking at the picture of the values we have, instead of looking only at the top values, looking at the plotting of the all the data, the incoming data. Was very interesting. As you know, there's the top value, the vector length, let's say, of the fields that we have, which is in fact a positive value. And then you have the bx, the by, and the bc, which are all the three different values we measure in the three directions, in the three directions. Some values are sometimes positive, others are negative, but when you look at the plotting, you clearly see, for example, that you have different values available. For example, the x value, which is from left to right, when you look into the center core, that x value can be nearly at 0, and x value shows the rotation.
Just one sec, John. Sorry, just one sec. Rick, can you add them back?
There is a message from Armand. Call them.
Yes, hello?
Yeah.
Heck?
Hey, you got connected back.
Yeah, we what do you call it? We are on both laptops, the Keshe Foundation Armand's, but we are not on the Keshe Foundation line. Can you call the Keshe Foundation?
Spaceship Institute is up here now.
Yeah, we haven't the request yet.
It's showing up on my Skype. Should I call it again?
Yeah, call us again, please. Did the whole system collapse, or was it just us?
No, it was just you guys.
Okay, accepted. Yeah, well, accepted. Yeah, we are there now.
Okay.
John, carry on.
Yes, okay. So what I'm interested is when we see the plotting of the values, and we clearly see the x, y, z values that maybe they are not on one value, one precise value, but we see the range, and those range, we clearly see the difference. And for example, at one moment, I'll just take a kind of picture of what we have been seeing. At one moment, we saw that the x and z value were just about the same range, and the y value was different. then because of the change, we saw that X value was going away from the Z value, and we saw also that instead of having two values near each other, we had one of those values that went near in the direction of the Y. Yeah. Okay.
Try 1 or 2. But it's big. But this is too big. We want this small. Sorry about that. As usual, Armin distracted my talking with about something else with the reactors.
So anyway, what is interesting is to see the effect of different conditions on the reactors and the better understanding of the effect by adding hydrogen, helium, or whatever we see.
It sounds somebody's having a pack of chocolate or biscuits opening a wrapping. Somebody's having a sweet in the morning.
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Those are some sweet dreams.
Yeah.
We are having, in fact, a better understanding of what's happening in the system and the link in which we have to get to have some more of a control of the systems. So, well, things are getting positive, and well, we are nearer some kind of thing to be able to control with the field, with the adding and subtracting of gas. I follow what's happening mainly and try to understand. So the reactors, the 4 small core reactors, they are there. We haven't made any experiment yet of the fields, and well, let's go on. For a few days, yeah, or for 1 month out of the lab, and I'll prepare a small course. And
I will let you know about your baby if anything happens to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, as Armin says, we're feeding them milk. No problem. Any questions for today?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Cash. This is Lucian. I have a few questions, about 3.
Oh, God,
The
a few
first-
today.
Only 3, yes.
3
the
to
first
start
one,
with, duplicate. Carry on.
So the first question is quite very simple. You said that you were connecting the reactors with some piece of wire, I mean regular, probably copper wire, which is not nano-coated. So I really don't get the...
They were. That's the reason we did was because they were nano-coated. We used the coating for the transfer of plasma magnetic gravitational field from one core to another. When you deal with plasma, you can't deal with matter for transportation. So they were nano-coated. If you look at the pictures, I think...
Right, so my question will be this. You stated that this nano-coating will oxidize in air and will be destroyed. So do you have any physical coating on the top?
Why do they? Why should they? Even if you get oxidation, it'll be only on a few layers. You have thousands of layers on top of each other. You still have the transfer of the plasma through the layers.
if I remember correctly, in the Fukushima technology release, you said that all the copper wire which are nano-coated, you have to keep them in a closed box because until you use them, because they will
If you are
deteriorate.
not using them, because don't forget the whole tube, the whole what I call a nanotube or the wire doesn't turn green. It turns green on certain spots, and that green comes through the gaps and holes where at the copper layer interface you get the oxidation. But the whole thing, I always say keep it, don't touch it, and keep it in a box for not the whole thing, but you don't get the whole tube, the whole wire to become green. We immerse the whole. Let me explain this. Maybe this is a good question you asked, but I have to put it in a way that makes it easy for you to understand. Even when we immerse the whole wire or a plate in the salt, not all the gaps or all the surface is copper oxided. The gaps and the layers between the on the surface, they change. So not the whole thing becomes copper oxide. And in the air moisture, usual air moisture, you don't get that much oxidation anyway. I haven't seen much. And it's always have a string which is one channel, usually you see goes green, and then you get a gap where the change of plasma is within the layers. You're not dealing with matter.
If I'm understanding correctly, once the plasma flows between two reactors, that nanowire will be, how to say,
useless,
ineffective.
Yep.
Beg your pardon?
Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
Let me finish the sentence. So, once you connect the nano-coated wires between two plasma reactors, because of the flow of the plasma, that will prevent the destructions of the nanolayers, the gaps and the PN junctions and so on. What is there?
I don't understand the question.
So
not
let me put it again.
No.
So supposedly you use a copper wire, which is nano-coated. So if this wire is connecting two reactors and a plasma flow, as you said, is circulating, or like a pipe, it will be transferred between one or then that will prevent the
it goes through the layers, not around the layers.
Right. So they will stay there in there very good without deterioration.
No. The plasma from one core to another goes through the nanolayers, not around the nanolayers to keep them isolated. The oxidation doesn't come from the top layer. The oxidation comes from the interface between the matter and the nano. It's very much like the way you sweat. It what you see on the top. Pardon? Carry on.
So basically, after the first 2-3 layers, which is in contact with air, will be oxidized, the process will stop and will make like an interface layer.
Yes.
And the system, the wire will be stable.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
This is what.
So now the second question. Right. So the second question is regarding today's picture that is probably the Arman's spherical reactor. So we have seen the nano-coated wires, and probably on the bottom is like a chunk of gas, probably CO2 or something else.
Which pictures have you posted? Let me see what is which picture are we talking about?
Are you talking about image 2513, Lucien?
I don't know, because now you have the other one.
It's got a sphere with a wire-like structure inside, a clear sphere. Okay, I've got that up on the live stream now.
So basically, it's a...
What have you done, Arman? What have you done? Let's see. Let's see which one is posted. Can you go on the link?
Can you see? I could try to show
Which
it on.
one? The one which is in a glass tube, you mean? In a glass ball, you mean?
Yes.
Ah, this is Armand. You know, Armand is our, what do you call it, our nano coater specialist. And so he has a lot of free time on his hand. So he went and he bought a light bulb for the bulb, the plastic ball which you see. And he made a tree of his nano layers. So he coated these wires. I was wondering what he's going to do with it, and then he went and he bought a ball for it, and now it's like a thing in a fish tank. This is nothing to do with, this is the creativity of Armand. This is not to do with our work, but this morning I was telling him, when you go to space, you can take this with you, because then you say, on Earth we have something like this, it's called a tree.
That's Arman's art.
Right, but
that's a copy
I
of
was thinking that the whitish thing on the bottom is some CO2 gas or.
No, it's just he's glued it to the stone. He carried the stone from Earth. We go to the moon, we bring the stone, and he put the thing on it. And if you look in detail, it's like some springs wire mesh on it as well. These are like to be the leaves of the tree, but they fell to the bottom. So they're actually nano coated.
So in the right environment, would not leaves of some sort grow on that tree, perhaps?
Well, you never know. As it's got DNA of almond on it, you never see. It'll be fruits. It'll grow almonds on it, so you can go and pick one. I
think so. What would be the correct environment to grow something organic on that tree?
Salt.
Ah. So salty air might do it, for example.
Salty air, yeah. You might see
time for a vacation by the ocean, I would say.
That's where the life, that's why they say the life comes from the sea. We are fishes.
Yes.
Because the interaction of the upper atmosphere, as we explained last time, with the water and the salt content and the metal content in the water has led to the creation of life. That's why we are dependent on the water.
Now there's one
and
factor.
That's how life has started. So you need the salt.
And you need also the ignition key. Is that true?
The ignition key on Earth is the lost and it's the hydrogen. The hydrogen is the ignition key.
Not be associated with lightning or like that's the form of plasma on Earth that we know of. And that's what they sometimes say, that lightning may have, that the shock of the lightning coming down could create the life from the basic elements.
No. If you look at the nano layers and the way the transfer of information and energy is done in the even in your cells where there are salts and links that you create your energy, the minute you connect the nano layers in the way they are done, the energy transfer comes within what is absorbed between the layers of the nano coating and the amino acid and the hydrogen movement.
This is interesting, because
that's how life starts from, in a very, very low. Let me correct you something. These high, what do you call it, thunders and lightning, what do you call it? They are too high voltage for life. For existence of life, you need a very, very extremely, extremely low current plasma flow.
Right. That's where, I say that because that's been the traditional thing that I was brought up with, learning that life started with all the conditions were right in the salty water, and then the lightning bolt is supposed to be the idea that started it. But that may be true, but in the sense that you're talking about, in the interlayer, for example, the distance between the nano layers is so close that even a small voltage acts the same as the high lightning bolt voltage over its distance.
No, high voltage. This is the This is the mentality of the man. Everything has to be big to do something.
Right. Well,
Life does the little things.
That's
but
right.
you
That's
don't need
what
that
I'm
much.
trying to hint at here. But yet, if we look at the potential between those layers, there is a potential to create interaction between the layers in the same manner that there's potential between clouds and Earth. There's so many volts per centimeter. Basically, it's a similar conditions in between the layers in volts per centimeter. It just happens to be in microvolts per micro centimeters, sort of thing. So, but I think that's where the whole misconception has come in, that it, like you say, it has to be big and violent, and it's the big bang concept versus the whoosh that you speak of, which is more of the interlayer phenomenon, would be more of a silent whooshing than a big sparking banging kind of thing.
Yeah, because if you look at your when you make these copper wires and you put in the salt water, when you look at it, your process is not chemical. Your process is a plasma transfer. So you don't see any plates or the other copper wire or whatever you have to get the material which is left the other side, but you collect that material as a GANs. There is, because this discussion in a way for the energy transfer was, we were talking with Marco yesterday. He says, I was trying to explain to him about how the energy comes through the lung. And I said, you don't usually release formulas, but in this case, it's in book number, I think, 5 first, because book number 5 is made of 4 or 5 books, because it's too much and it covers the most of the medical application. In the first book, I said the origin of life on Earth. I explained in 1 chapter how the energy is transferred, and it's it's in EVs in very small amounts, but the small amounts gather to a lot because you have too many cells. Then it adds up to the 37 degrees temperature of the body of the man, and part of the process for other things, where N2 or nitrogen into the process of N2 converts into the helium, and then part of the N in atomic structure and molecular structure changes into the hydrogen, that you get the release of the energy, where you get a carbon or you get the oxygen, depending on what is released. But all these releases are in a plasma form; they are not in a matter form. So when you have the interaction in the system, you see the release of energy in I think it's 3.2 MeVs, which is very little, extremely little. And that energy, each plasma releases anything between 1.6 to 3.2, some cases 3.8, and that depends how much energy absorbs by the cell in the body, which is adapted to receive that certain energy level. So I told Marco I was trying to put this up maybe next session. I put this formula that you can see how little this energy is. It's very little. That process allows everything to happen.
Along those lines, I was just reading a couple of days ago about the patent for the original copper oxide rectifiers and diodes, and that was back in 1929. And they were talking about how difficult it was with this copper oxide diode to get beyond 3 volts. It was virtually impossible for them until they developed this new technique and so on. And I thought that's interesting because it's in the same range that you were just speaking of. It doesn't seem to range more than about that kind of general range, and any more than that, and it basically short circuits itself. It doesn't handle that kind of high voltage.
You see this with all the nanolayers. Why we made this new confined area for some reactors which we're running tests for, is because of the condition that the nanolayers have enforced on the plasma. In fact, for example, the energy core is not in the setting this time because of the same problem. The energy reactor is taken out because the center core, not the inner core, the center core is nano-coated on both sides. So it interrupts all the fields, even the plasmatic fields. This is what I explained yesterday as well in the course of what we were doing, that when we added argon, we start seeing interference with the detector. We saw a problem with the detector. And I explained that in this situation we have created in a sealed container, we have released cosmic plasma, cosmic energy. And because it was so rapid that it crossed the boundary and immediately at that level affected the work of the detectors on both 3 dimensions. It wasn't that it was a Y damage because it was, the Z was damaged because it was facing the reactors. But because the totality, the whole, it was very much like what you see as the explosion of the sun. You get a solar flares. Solar flares are a plasma release in a high rapid way. Yesterday we created that condition and we saw how it interfered with the working of the detector. That it did not even did the body work. We had to reset, we disconnect and go back to resetting it up. So for the first time we see the creation of cosmic plasmatic fields in the core, in the lab. You release very small but very powerful energies, and this is what I said. When you are extracting gases from your core, go to a waste tank. Don't go to your vacuum pump, because it can damage the process of the vacuum pump. I see we have an inherent problem in the 2 small reactors, which is a ceramic setup last week or this week. Is that because there is a groove built by John in it, we had to put a rubber O-ring in it. We cut a rubber O-ring and we had one fixed one by Armin. We'll come to regret putting these O-rings in there because plasma, through the lattice structure of the rubber, will affect their structure. But we have backed it up with other sealants which keeps the plasma in condition. But when the reactors have run in a plasma condition, high value plasma condition, when one day if we reach the right level for it, because we've seen in the nuclear tests, is that these rubbers become like chewing gum. When you chew it, it becomes so elastic and there is no formality to it. So we will see this when we open these reactors in a future time. If we reach that point, that plasmatic field interacts with the position of the electrons and protons, plasmas, and it changes the lattice structure. There's a lot to learn at the same time, and remember what you've learned from it that you can repeat it. We, as Marco said, we loaded very fast yesterday. Because we were breaking up, we were looking to achieve something, at least because John said, you promised me a lift. He was sitting there on his chair. So we tried to satisfy his, his lift. So we loaded very rapidly and the whole thing came to a standstill. We left it as the system fields work and they are dynamic. We came back this morning and the fields have built up. So as we load on a continuous basis, we reach new levels and new directions.
I suppose you were talking about Armin.
In what way?
Waiting for the lift.
Yes, Armin. What did I say? Argon? John? Oh no, sorry, John. Oh yeah, no, that's Armin, yeah. Oh, it's your fault. What's the next question?
Yes, Mr. Kesh, I would like to finish with the sphere of glass. So supposingly that what we see from Arman was filled with, let's say, aqueous solution of CO2 gas. My understanding is that because of the central pin, which is nano-coated, this CO2 solution will be pushed against the wall of the sphere. So it will be some
We
sort
don't know.
of
I
gap.
don't know. We got to fill it in. We've done this with three-dimensional detector. We use distilled water, but we don't see any. We haven't seen any material release, so I cannot tell you what happens if you put salt in there. Most probably it will
So
fall
I
on
was
the
asking.
floor. It won't go to the glass. It'll go on the bottom of the tree.
Okay, I was asking you because I finished the experiment with the center pin inserted in a bottle with oil and water, and the magnetic pressure is pulling oxygen atoms and is compressing them against the wall of the bottle. I will bring some pictures from
I've
next
seen
workshop.
that. I've done that. Yeah, I've seen that.
So
It does
the
that. Yeah.
oil and the water doesn't stick on the central nano-coated copper wire, but is becoming whitish. I'm assuming that some hydrogen atoms are joining the nano-coating. Is losing from
You
the
know what I
darkness of the
call
color.
that whitish? That's mayonnaise. It looks like mayonnaise.
No, yeah, but it's not sticking like the CO2 gas. It's
No,
somehow.
it's not. Yeah.
Okay, so I will bring the picture from next workshop. So this is for today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. This is the position of the fields decides what material where you get. It's very interesting when you mix the matter with plasma and the GANs. It totally plays different game. One of them becomes the intermediary, one sticks to, and one stays separate. Any other question? I think all the brains are getting ready for holidays.
Well, if you feel having a headache,
Hello, Mr. Kesh. I have a question.
Yes.
Marco earlier mentioned about use of copper GaNs for interaction with the GaNs reactors. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, if possible?
Can you repeat the question? I don't understand.
Okay, Marco mentioned about the idea of using copper GaNs to interact with the reactors. So I was wondering if you can explain to us how does that work? You just send the thoughts to the.
I explained this weeks ago. Weeks ago we explained it is big. There is a piece of information you have to go to a biological and medical or understanding of the structure of the body of the man. The fetus is blood and its motion and its contractions and its work separates the copper in the brain, in the blood, and in that process, that copper converts and sets the condition for the creation of the protein, which is what we call the brain structure. You need that copper in the fetus to set up the structure, beginning of the building of the human brain cells. This is why in the body of the man, in the physical part, where there is no nerves in the red tissues, the copper take over the job of the link and information. So in fact, if scientists in the future do a test and take all the nerves out and you create the right condition in a tissue or in a muscle, you will see that the neurosystem will be built on its own. This is part of the teaching which I will teach when we come to the medical side, to the medical people. You can reestablish the neural losses through the right vibration, through the right combination, out of the copper within the red tissue muscles. So here you have that copper-based connection, and in the copper oxide bowl on the table is again the copper, and in the reactors we load again with copper. We already have the base connection plasma balance. So partially how you connect to the reactor is through the structure, because it's the part of the structure of your own body. So when you sit down in front of the the bowl, or when you put your thoughts into the bowl, it's not that you have to have a matching receiver. Iron has a magnet for iron, plastic has a magnet for plastic. Now we have the knowledge to do that. Now the same way, because of this copper and two other materials within the body of the man, which is replicated in this process in the bowl in the office, and then in the lab, you already have a predestined line of communication. Plasma, parallel interaction, because they are made of the same kind of things. This is something which hasn't been explained, I thought, up to now. So if you think it's a magic, you sit down and you think, and the copper ball will change, and then you give the instruction, you change it the way it's done in the lab. And why I chose the copper, everything which I started at the beginning and I'll keep on adding is all to be understood later on why and how. I didn't choose a CO2, I didn't choose a what do you call it, CH3 or any other GANs. Because if you go back to the health, I always said, even yesterday I was explaining to the surgeon who was here, how he can allow his patients not to suffer from the cut out, the nerve cuts or whatever. Because the neurosystem, the intelligence connection, and the way the fetus vibrates, I explained this before, in the womb of the mother, leads to the carbon, which then it leads
I think we just lost the connection there.
Thank you for saying something, because I was just about to ask.
That was because I was gonna say what the connection is. When you see on the table in front of a bottle of vodka, that's the connection.
The connection
looks like they're coming back here.
I'm saying that the connection is you like your vodka bottle because you have intentions, and you have the thoughts towards your bottle, and you already feel the taste in your mouth. That's the connection. And the connection with the reactors is that because of the mind, of the intention, of the what you want to have as a connection will happen to be a connection.
Yeah. There is always
So
the connection.
in that way you can choose level.
Yes, Jan, I will.
So that's how you can actually control the direction of the spacecraft by mind as well.
Well, that's the way we should be going, but we haven't been seeing any.
Hello? We are back.
Okay, great.
I don't know how we lost. Where did you lose us?
About a minute ago, What were we discussing then? Does anybody remember the exact cutoff point there?
Yeah, I was explaining about how you communicate through the system to the reactor, to your body, to your thoughts. So your brain has part of the structure because it came from the oxygen, from the copper. So you already have the link, common denominator link with the copper. And that's how your brain was established, how the neural system, and that's why in your body where there are no nerves, as I explained, your tissue, your fibers have a copper in them, and they work with the neural system. This is explained in the book number 5 in detail. Any other question?
Are the books 4 or 5 somewhere available?
Book number 4 is completely finished. It's just for me and Dirk getting together somewhere this year to putting the pictures on. Book number 6 is totally completed. Will be released sometime next year or two. Book number 5 is totally medical. It has 3 or 4, maybe 5 volumes of it. It's very much in depth. It's in every aspect of the health, not to do only with humans, but to do in a universal way. In one of the parts of the book, it's mainly written in different chapters to just be compiled. And partially somewhere I explain a medical man should be able to understand, to be able, if you're in a scene that there is another man but another creatures of God, he should be able to, by understanding the principle, to be able to help on the same principle any other creature. So you're not just a help man for the man, but the help man for the people, for the creatures in the universe. And I explained that process of how to handle other entities in respect to the touch, to understanding, and because thermometers does not work, and you can't put the thermometers in something which is not physically in front of you, but it's sick, or it needs a help, or something happens, because accident happen, things goes on. It doesn't mean that people in the universe or other creatures don't get sick, or they don't find a way to end up their lives in different ways. As we call it, a medicine man for man should be a medical man for the universe. So in one of the volumes, I go into detail how you approach, how you treat, how you treat the interaction, how you process the illness, and how you understand it. So this is part of the book number 5. And then you have a book number 7, and book number 9 is to do with the creation of the soul and interaction of the soul of the man.
Oh, I mean, can we get them somewhere, even on PDF? I don't really need the book.
No, we do not go on PDF at the moment. The book will be sold as a book and be offered as a book. But book number 4 has been finished nearly 2 years now. It's just that I gave it to Dirk to picture it, and then I took it back because I wanted to change something in it. And now, somehow this year, next few months and weeks, we have to get together with Dirk to put the pictures on, because putting the pictures for Dirk, every time he done a picture for a book, he's ended up with a stroke, so we got to do it very easy way. Because he puts a lot of energy and time into it. He does a beautiful job. So when that is done, it goes for editing, and then it goes for publication. But book number 4 and 6 are complete. You don't need to do much with it. It's just putting pictures into it. But book number 6 will be released when people understand the operation, or they go further in the operation of reactors, because book number 6 is only to do with the operation of the reactors. And not just, again, with the reactors which the man handles, but the universal reactors. From book number 4 on, we don't teach only to do with the earthly matters. Everything is taught in parallel with all dimensions. We open the book of God. Next question.
There was a question from Sandor, and he's been working on his cells, his GANS cells, and he's added the salt salt to the solution, and he says that when he opens his reactors, his container, he gets a strong salty odor, and he's getting stronger by the day apparently, and he feels it's of a pleasant nature, but he asks, is it safe for health to enjoy it?
This is something Marco came up with quite a few weeks ago. Yeah, because no, we used to keep on adding salt to the containers, and then I think the salt saturation became very high as it evaporates, because the liquid continuously evaporates. But this evaporation is a normal evaporation as you get on the sea level, and you see part of the salt. Actually, what you smell as a what do you say? You smell as a sea, whatever, a smell or a salt. We see it in our reactors attaching to the wall of the reactors. That literally salt grows outwardly on the buckets, on the containers. So no, because it wasn't part of the process. This is the salt which we see now. Even if you see the current pictures of the lab with the reactors, it's all salt hanging. But there is a difference between the salt and CO2, because when you position your electrodes in the right way on part of the wires we see in the lab, we see a structure of the CO2 hanging on it, and this is literally like a white powder. This is not the salt, this is totally gaseous state of the CO2, but you see the salt totally separate. The salts take the color of the gas material which they are in. If they come from the pot with the green, they have a greenish color. If they come from the red, the salt is reddish color. So that is a natural salt interaction as it evaporates. This, you got to realize a slight condition, and that is as the amino acid, the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen are in a gas state and they change to protein, they do not immediately sit on top of the water. So they're still in a molecular gas state till they touch the water, the salt water, and then they change into the combination of matter manifestation. So when you have the evaporation of the water in the lab or in your place of work, as these vapors come up, they capture part of the molecular amino acid in a gas state, and as they I never explained before, but I hope you understood that the gases do not automatically, as become the molecule of amino acid or protein, they appear on the surface as you see as fat layers. Just above, there is a molecule of amino acid in a gas state, where with the evaporation from the water, just like others said, they manifest themselves in the salt, in the vapor, as the amino acid, and then when they sit or they attach themselves to the wall of the container as they grow out, we see it all the time in the lab. You have a salt which has an amino acid embedded in it. That's why it's the same color. I assumed you understood this. So the vapor you smell as a salt is a natural vapor, but if you have created let's say a copper oxide green, you'll find out this salt is not very white. It's got molecules of GANs of CO2 or the copper oxide in it.
I'm assuming that wouldn't be so good to breathe. Is that correct?
You go to the seaside, you breathe it every day.
I mean the copper oxide part of it.
Don't forget that GANS state matter is part of the material we breathe constantly throughout the environment.
Right.
It's not just that because now we see it, it's very unique.
So
that's how life started. The GANS comes direct all the time. It is.
So would it be safe to say that it would be safe to breathe? Back to his to Sandor's original question: is that salty odor safe for his health to enjoy it?
You know, I don't say that because then they say, "Oh, I breathed that day, and he said it's safe. Now I'm sick." You
Mr.
decide
Keshe said it was okay to blah blah blah, and somebody does something stupid with it. But generally, it's probably okay to
we breathe these kind of things as a natural process. This is something you all know, but or maybe you do not know. There are more golds in the ocean than man has ever found as reserves and at the moment on the land. There are more coppers and zinc and everything else floating in the oceans. And in the conditions they've been and coming through the same vaporization they go. So we as part of our lives we breathe, and as part of the energy we receive. This is part of the whole process. It's just that we never understood, and this is exactly the same as when we breathe oxygen, it goes through our blood cells and we get oxygenated. Now that we understand more, we can expand the knowledge to be able to understand exactly what's happening around us. So these part of the energy we receive in breathing is these GANS state matters which is within the vapor which we breathe. It's not pure. Nobody checks in your nose, oh, you got a CO2 GANS, you can't come in. This is partially the process of life. And these materials which we breathe according to position we are very much affects the DNA and the structure of the DNA in our body. That's why we have different colors, short, high, or whatever. Because we just don't breathe the air in that area, in the environment we live in. We absorb the energy very much, the GANS of the matters which are floating in the environment.
Now, along those lines, Sandor also mentioned that when he opened the lid of his container, he got this cool wind. What he felt or had the impression of was a coolness, a cool wind coming off. And he thought that was unusual enough to actually take the temperature of the container and see if it was cooling off somehow. But he found out that the temperature was actually the same as the room temperature, and there was no difference there. So I'm wondering if that might be associated with what you were just mentioning about this idea of the aliveness of this material, and that when we sense or sometimes smell certain things, it's actually like tying into another dimension, another life form is communicating with us in a certain way. Would that be associated with that cool wind, or is that just something, just a physical phenomenon of some sort, perhaps?
I've never closed these things, so I cannot tell you. We never close the systems that they can.
You don't close the saltwater systems at all. Is that what you're saying?
It's open all over. Yes, they're open. We have even seen. Let me explain something, Rick. We even have seen since we start operating the plasma reactors in the lab that we have changed the environment in these containers. The materials.
Well, this ties in with the third thing with Sandor. We were discussing this earlier, that his container was closed. So I was suggesting, well, maybe he needs to open it to allow the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to interchange more with the material inside, because that would allow the creation, or that we were actually discussing how we could put a tube into it and blow into it, so his own carbon dioxide could go in and interact with the materials, with the plasma.
We did a test in Belgium Nuclear Center a few years ago as part of the assessment of the technology by the Belgian government. It was financed by the Minister of Energy. So in SCK, in the nuclear center, what was done was that we spent one day. They have what they call special chambers. It's a very thick glasses. So we vacuumed the whole environment of any gases as much as we could. We went to a high level vacuum. This is like a meter by meter cube, what do you call it, container. And we put nano layers hanging in this chamber. We did a test beforehand. It was done very specifically. The scientists in the center did the nano coating themselves. And then we introduced CO2 gas into the environment at the different levels. And then the scientists did the spectroscopy on electrodes, if I remember, one at a time. And we realized, or it was shown, that carbon or CO2 was encapsulated within the layers of the nano layer. And as it is, as you've seen it, the mass ratio of the carbon is about 8% of the total surface area. So when you make it available, the layers will interrupt and convert. Or when you make it available, the magnetic field within the structure attracts and holds, and then it converts in conjunction with the salt into what do you call it, into the gas of the matter.
Question about that interaction. How might one's own DNA interact in that circumstance? Let's say you're breathing, deliberately breathing into the atmosphere where the, in the container where the cells are. Obviously, there's going to be cells coming off from our breaths, from our breathing. It's one of the ways we get rid of cells of the body. So would there be some interaction with the DNA, a human DNA, in that circumstance?
Yes, I partially have explained this as I said, in the book number 5, one of the chapters. It is a direct link, but actually one of the ways you can do it, I better don't say it and then say he said it and we did it. But you can test the development of your DNA and change of DNA and the working of your body as a GANs, in a matter state GANs. By using different liquids of your body into these containers. But I don't go any further with it, but you can do all sorts of things to see how you change DNA. This is what in the future you'll be able to produce your own copy of your own flesh for your own repairs. In so many ways, if we take this to a step further, you see in these amino acids, as we call it, on the top layer, through the same process in the coming months and weeks and God knows years, I will show you how you can change these layers into the beautiful, what you like to call it, the rump steaks or the chicken, in a physical sense. Because you can do a lot of things in what you put in the liquid and what the thing is turned up to be. But you create a gravitational magnetic field of that liquid. This is what I said today. I created in my container the condition of the milk of the mother, and that's what you see. And the first 12 cups or 10 cups of lives are already on the table. Depends what you put in, and you create a condition. No, you can't have 1 cup of life, Rick. No.
I'll make my own then, by golly. Mr. Keshe, I was reading today about meteorites, for example, and how they contain some of the magic cosmic dust that is not found on Earth, that is floating around in between stars, the interstellar dust and so on. And what they've discovered, getting some of this dust from one of the comets that came by, they actually embedded some of the dust and dropped it back off on Earth. And when they examined it, it had surprising amounts of glycine, which is apparently an amino acid precursor for making proteins and so on. And there's a lot of this, and it's part of the nanomaterials, nanoparticles that are out in the universe, apparently. Now, would these materials be useful inside of either a passive or possibly a dynamic reactor setting? Is there anything you can say about that?
You can use any material as long as you can bring it into its Ganser state. If I put a bunch of stones in the reactors, I'll get nothing. But if I can change the structure of the atoms of the stone into a Ganser state, then I can use the gravitational magnetic field strength, or what they call their fingerprint, to create a reactor which absorbs only that stone to itself. So in the universe, let me explain why to finish this, please. Okay. So you have what they call interstellar, or between the stars, cosmic dust, or whatever. Now they see it in comets. In the structure of the comets, most of the comets travel to the outer boundaries of the plasma of this solar system. And as we send materials, fields, plasmatic fields into the cosmic environment, we receive the same. So the reasons you see life on these comets, I have explained clearly in the book number 4, that these comets, they go to the boundary, the edges of the plasma of this solar system, and in their process, because in those conditions, in those environments, is the same as I explained earlier, they have a slightly different structure, temperature. These elements freeze on them, they join on them, they manifest on them. And then as they come back, this is why you see all the time these meteorites have a tail, and they say it's got a vapor tail, and they carry whatever. The only reason is that every time they go to the boundary of the solar system, because of their temperature difference, their condition, and gravitational magnetic field difference, they attract to themselves thousands and thousands of tons of this material. They are actually a dynamic Saturn or a dynamic Jupiter. So they keep on passing the Earth so many years, and you call it the Star of David, you call them whatever, and they see the meteorites coming and the comets coming, and they always have a tail, and this tail never finishes, because in the orbit they are like an electron. When they go to the boundary of the solar system, all the magnetic gravitational field of the sun in that layer is so weak that it changes to matter. So it's like an eggshell, but a soft eggshell. And these meteorites, as they have a different gravitational magnetic field, as they go through this eggshell mist, it's like when you have a plane, you go through the clouds, you get wet because you absorb the moisture, it gets attached on you. These meteorites get these molecules of mainly hydrogen and helium attached to them. And then at the same time, in this mixture, there is part of the cosmic magnetic field which has converted into matter in these layers, and then you get it back. And in this level, you have everything. It's very much the same interaction as we see on the surface of the sun and the upper layers of the sun, of the Earth. The interaction between the magnetic field gravitation of the sun and the earth, as I said last week, in a specific zone level leads to the creation of nitrogen. Then nitrogen manifests itself as a matter. The same thing happens in the solar structure. In the boundary of those layers, you get matters which convert, or they come in as cosmic dust in the solar system. Then you observe it. This is what I was explaining to my child very recently, I think. You are used to seeing comets, what do you call it, cosmic dust. We see aurora in the North Pole, or we see, we say meteorites or something comes in and we see them called the shooting stars. The same thing happens between the outer boundary of this solar system and the galaxy. When the man expands his travels beyond and through the solar system, you will see a more spectacular meteorite reactions in the outer boundary edges of this solar system, but we are not equipped to see it. So you see the repeat of the same thing. And part of these meteorites, is part of the stones or whatever come, they stay in the upper layer, and these meteorites pick them up, and then we see it, and they say we've seen this from the galaxies. It's the same process in the larger scale. So, and the meteorites which are dynamic in this plasma of the solar system, when they go to the boundaries, because of the gravitational magnetic, actually is mainly inertia they carry. Inertia is is the same thing, but not in a dynamic state. Inertia is still the gravity. Magnetic field is a maggrav, but it's an atomic structure maggrav, not plasmatic maggrav as we see it in our cores. Then that maggrav attaches or attracts as a totality that kind of material, and then in that mixture, they were saying, as I explained to you, when you have the salt, as it evaporates, it takes what do you call it, copper oxide or whatever it didn't become green. So they get attached to these meteorites and they come back and we see them. And these meteorites will go forever, because every time they get to the boundary, they absorb the moisture and they come back, and you always have a trail. These trails should have finished after they've gone for 1 or 2 times, but they forever come back every so many often, and they always travel everywhere till they get absorbed into a solar system itself, the star or one of the planets. But these comets, the moisture you see at the bottom and the back of their tail is very much a smaller version of the Saturn by dynamic, and they absorb most of the moisture or material, as you see as water vapor you see at the back of them. That is what they absorb. They absorb on the boundaries, and as they go through the center of the solar system, near part of the solar system, inner part, the interaction with the rays of the sun allows this evaporation, and you see as their trail. And then you can find anything in there. If man's science goes further, you'll find part of the inner core of the star and the mother what do you call it, universe which we came from.
That's exactly what they've discovered in the last few years, and they've found that there's actually stellar particles that go through stars. They actually start the stars, and once the star is created, they leave, they get ejected from the star, they travel through space and eventually get together to start another star. And it's a pre-stellar particle, basically. So some of these are included in the meteorites, and scientists have discovered techniques only in the last couple of years in ways of testing these and testing for that material. This stardust, essentially cosmic dust, that's been through a star and survived tell the tale. And it literally tells the tale because the scientists can tell what kind of star it's come from and the exact star it has come from. It leaves its signature on it according to the isotopes and so on. So I'm wondering if that kind of material that would have the qualities to start a star, would that not be something that would be good to inject into a dynamic reactor or even a static reactor in order to activate it as an ignition key, perhaps?
The thing is, if you're going to start a star as ignition key, you already must have reached plasma. So you already have the essence of it in your reactors. Very, 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 very soon we will start. We have enough material here in the lab to show a true solar system in the lab working. At the moment, if you call it a star formation, but if I change the combination slightly, as I explained yesterday or the day before, if you just change the position of the 4 reactors, you have a tritium. And then you have a proton, and you have 2 neutrons and 1 electron. If you can manage to imitate the condition of 2 reactors exactly the same, and 1 slightly weaker, and 1 slightly weaker but in a different position, you create tritium. One of the problems with like Fukushima, with the big these tanks, with the tritium, is just that additional neutron. I was explaining in the lab in the last week that if you can withdraw or keep this single neutron attracted or busy somewhere, then you have no radioactive material within the container within the waters. So what do you do with this neutron? If you can extract enough of it, you lead to creation of new materials. And you can start a solar system. Because neutron on its own, if you can bring it into a plasma condition and add them together, you start the life of a star. What they say, they see the essence, so they can go back to where the star comes from. The star does not throw materials out. The star throws plasmas, which are a fingerprint of its own plasma. So when the materials they become weak enough, they become part of, or they become manifestation of that solar system, or that star. A star does not throw stones out. It's too liquid, too soft. It's a plasma. So
I think they were talking about when it goes supernova or whatever. And
supernova,
explodes.
when you go again, yeah, but the condition with supernova is again the fallacy of the fusion. The material become matter from one star according to the plasma they release. The whole structure of the supernova that and after 57 there cannot be more fusion. This is all nonsense. The whole process carries on. Depends what size the package is when it's released in that position of balancing. Supernova is what I call neutron division to a proton and electron, because the internally cannot hold the balance, so it splits. It doesn't destroy, so in splitting, we see in nuclear decay when the neutron divides in the proton and electron, we just don't get banged 2 pieces. We get residuals, some energy, some other magnetic gravitational fields, because they are not needed. They are surplus to having 2 independent entities of electron and proton. So now you call these residuals interstellar stones or life or material. It's just again back goes to what do you call it? This thing about what they call the God particles. These residuals become God particles, and they appear themselves as a cosmic dust, neutron dust, or whatever you want to call it, because now they are weak enough that they can, through interaction and friction with other magnetic gravitational fields in the environment, to become matter, to cool enough or lose strength enough to manifest. So what do they become? Then you can say this residual came from that electron or for that proton, because it's part of the structure they came from. It's just scaling it up. then you.
But at the center of a supernova, there's still a star.
Yes,
So would
of
that
course.
be the
It's
seed
a
of the
plasma.
star?
Yeah, it never changes. Once it's established, the star never finishes. They amalgamate. This is what I said in my couple of talks before. The destiny of this solar system is written, is finalized. So when the two stars hit each other, it's not that nothing's going to be left. They become one bigger mass in the center. It's amalgamation of plasmas. This is what we try to do now in our reactor cores.
Is that what you would call it as a binary system? Is what they see as a larger sun being eaten, as in quotes, with a smaller star?
In a way, it's an interfusion. Because they originally came from the same thing. One is a proton, one is an electron. But due to the forces of the way the universe works, they go back together again. But they are not. They will not be as big as.
So there could be a short time that our sun will be the same.
Our sun destiny is written. It's number of days of it. What is left for this solar system is in days of solar universal time. It's so minute, so we are destined for the same pattern at the moment. There will not be any changes. So the same thing will happen. So you will get the residuals, you get the balance. As I told you before, this is how the collision of the two stars I was trying to explain in the paper called the black hole theory. That when the stars hit, they become, because I was trying to explain what is about to happen to the man. I wrote about this in 2004. But now that we open the books and you can understand more, the creation of black hole is the destiny of the Earth. Read it thoroughly, you understand exactly what is to come. Don't read it for what is written. That's the history of what is going. That was why I wrote that paper first. The days
I think I
are
can understand that.
Yeah, but you have to understand what. Read that paper, it's in the book. Read it and you understand exactly. That's what I said. When the two come together, you get a bigger black hole and you get a residual. We compared one sun to a black hole and it absorbs other star to it. Read it the way it's written. Not
But you wouldn't necessarily have a bigger mass.
No, you have a total mass.
Gravitational
You have a
magnetic
total mass. Yeah, you have a total mass. We see in this what we call supernova condition, release of plasmatic field, yesterday in the lab. As we changed the condition in our to do it, but in the universe it happens, and you got to live with it. You can't change it. You can't backdate it. Back to Future doesn't exist in the universe. You never see your grandfather. Doesn't matter how hard you try. Next question.
Mr. Kesh, I had an idea of using my own urine as a salt water in my gun cells. And I was wondering what will I be making out of it?
This was what went through my head. I was going to suggest it, but I thought people say, you told to do it. But when I...
Good thing someone else mentioned it, eh?
Use the liquids of your body, you will be amazed what you will see. With testing it, you can even say what you've eaten too much or you are not supposed to eat. They always say, and there are some physicians which are of the same school of thoughts, if you want to understand the state of the body, never test the blood. Blood is the worst thing to test. Test the urine and feel it and see what comes out. Then it gives you a very, very good indication of where your body is. Saliva is incoming. You need to look at the outgoing. What you're rejecting counts. Then you get a very good state of what the body is rejecting, how much is rejecting, and why it's rejected. This is part of the understanding the structure and what I call the book number 5. You got to see what you reject.
The same thing goes.
And that liquid is very good things. You'll be very amazed how wrongly you've been eating.
I was going to say the same thing goes in my business of auto repair. You always check the exhaust of a vehicle to see what condition the engine's in. And your nose will tell you very well exactly where it is.
You know which cylinder is leaking, huh?
Exactly.
Which washer has gone and you got to change.
Yeah.
And can the material...
Pardon?
And can the material made out of that be used as a way of fixing some issues with the body?
I explained to you something very simply. I was explaining this to somebody in past few days. You know, when if you ask somebody to give them their breath, you know, if they're breathing out and you say, can I suck what you breathe out? You breathe out what is already converted because before it becomes a matter state. So they've done half of the job. You need less energy to convert it again. Because your body uses a slightly different things than their body rejecting. And at the same time, you find out there is why we kiss each other. And why a man and a woman, when they kiss as a lovers, have totally different emotional, mental state than when you kiss a son and daughter or a father and a mother. This is part of the psychological part of the work which I've written about, you understand, in the future. Even breath, let alone urine or anything else, gives you a good indication of what you need and how and what you absorb and what you need to absorb. And in one way, in breathing, as I said, you change the energies in the tox in your lungs. You give the information to the partner in what you expect to receive. And because it's a level which is given directly, affects the emotional part, because the breath, as I said, the lung is for the brain. This is a lot of things for man to still to understand in the physicality of the life and why we do things the way we do things. So what you call interaction of the material of your body with its environment, if you absorb it, then you understand why you behave so different, and why we behave in our interactions with other creatures or other entities. What you leave out or what you reject is not what you don't need, but in the way your body has already processed in the way that it can absorb it. But at that moment was a surplus. So do you want to go and eat a lettuce to get the vitamins, while the vitamins or whatever the energies of it is being rejected because it's been a surplus? You don't need to eat the same lettuce twice. There's a lot to learn. Next time when you kiss your wife or husband, then you think twice. The information you are given is very much true. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next question.
I think we should probably get things wrapped up pretty soon here, but maybe we'll allow another question.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Yes.
The problem is coming.
Because yes, you are in big trouble for the vacation.
No, it's okay. Come on.
So basically, in all your concepts are constantly putting this issue that all these transformations and absorptions, and speaking about the health issues, are happening in the magnetic strength level of the elements, being nitrogen, oxygen, helium, whatever. So it's not happening in material state, but in the energy, plasma level state. So,
once they enter your body, no.
So basically, my question is very simple. For the hydrogen atom, speaking about myself and for others, the actual science knows how to calculate the energy of the proton, the magnetic field of the proton, the magnetic momentum, same for the electron. But for the other elements you mentioned, specifically nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, I don't know, and of course, probably the literature doesn't probably provide too much information or at all, because it's your concept of the plasma radius equivalent of these atoms and of the magnetic field equivalent of these atoms. So in order for all these people in the health and for us to understand and to do physical devices to use this, we need to know which are these magnetic field levels equivalent to a plasma strength of, let's say, nitrogen atom. So I'm assuming that somehow you charted it, you determined, you calculated, you somehow did it. So it's my view that if we, the lay people, to say so, or the people, we don't know this information, probably it's very unlikely that anyone can do something with these cups and devices and so on. So basically, is any way in which after you come from vacation, we can have this kind of discussions?
Before we go to vacation, we'll have a discussion now. I'll explain to you in a very simple way, then it doesn't give you a sleepless night. In the Armor Labs. In the reactors, now that we have isolated it in one set, which is very much as a star formation or a tritium, because now we're taking so much data, we see now that certain adding of, let's say, hydrogen to a reactor gives us certain figures, and all the time the figures are within a percentage of a boundary the same. So we see for a given total value, we have nearly a specific X energy, what do you call it, field strength, a specific Y and a specific Z. This is what I will teach in coming time to the students. This is how we measure the structure of a proton, electron, or atom of gold, or what do you call it, calcium or potassium. We already have started, but the knowledge seekers are not in what I call in a state to understand it. But in so many ways, I have indicated to them a few times in the past week or so that this is the figure, and you see the boundaries, they're about the same. We are so much lower, so much higher. So we have already started that process, but you're not here. We don't show you everything and you can't see everything. We already, as I explained to them even yesterday, I think, that then they'll understand this field strength with this data is, for example, for hydrogen. This is for potassium. We already are in that state, but as I said before, the knowledge seekers are getting too much information, but in so many ways now we can even specify with the systems we have what is the plasma structure of the, let's say, calcium or potassium. But the other thing is you'll be interested to know is that we have a detector inside the contained environment, and we have a detector outside from a distance looking into the behavior of the plasma inside the cage. So not only we see what it should be, we see the interaction of the whole container with this environment. And they sit about the same. We can say when we were looking at it yesterday, when we see the flow of the fields from the detector into the environment, when the flux goes up internally or when it's too much from inside coming out. We start seeing interaction of the fields internally and with this environment, with the two detectors we have placed in strategic positions to look into it. Once it's totally looking into the center core inside the confinement, and one sits on top of a stand looking on top of the whole confinement to see what externally done. So not only now we can say, okay, this is the behavior of, okay, let's say copper in this confinement. We can see how this copper will interact, let's say, with magnesium if we create an environment of magnesium, and what measure will be, so we can produce and expect to what receive. This process has already started, but for knowledge seekers it's a bit too early to understand, but it's already, I already pointed out to them. We get a specific figure always followed with the other figures that are within the same boundary, so we know at this figure we should do this, and then if we wait, the system achieves itself.
Mr. Keshe, you don't take any absolute numbers, though, on an actual proton. Can an actual proton be measured even? Or is it always, is the plasma always changing? So to try to measure it would be impossible.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the environment. The size of a plasma of a proton can be inside what you see as a matter, or it can be the size of the room we are sitting. Depends what gravitational magnetic field of the environment allows the plasma to grow into.
Right, so it would be very difficult to well, you could maybe measure it, but it would only be good for that particular picosecond, billionth of a second or whatever.
Or not really, but you can decide internally more where you want to be internally with it and what it allows to go outside. But the behavior of the plasma in a funny way, but not exactly, is the same as behavior of a gas. But the gas, the problem is, fills up the environment. But with plasma, you've got a central core principle which holds it together as well. It's both ways. Partially what it allows to, and partially what its environment allows it to expand into. But you can measure it. So let me explain to you. You can have a gold the size of this room as an atom, or you can have it the size of the gold you get in a ring. On the surface, it will be the same. On the boundary of the matter state, it will be the same. On the boundary matter, it will be the same. So it's what you need and what you allow to happen. This I will explain in the medical side, with to do with lymph and the size of the lymph. The same lymph takes different directions and different sizes, but it's the same size lymph. This is why I support chemotherapy, because I understand it. This is what we were explaining in the lab this week. A lymph, if it receives too much energy, grows, expands enough, and then when it sits on the bone, it literally kills the bone. There is nothing called, bone cancer does not exist. This is a fallacy. The people say you have a bone cancer. The bone cancer doesn't exist. All it happens is the lymph cells grow big enough that when they attach themselves to the bone, the bone cannot receive and be used for its purpose. So you see, it's like, as I said to Marco, let me sit on your lap for 10 hours or 2 days. You will see the meat with rot. You suffocate. You block the receipts of minerals to the bone. So it's very easy to reverse what they call a bone cancer or secondary cancer on the bone. This is understanding the structure. It's the same cell, but where it sits and how big it becomes. In the plasma state, you take the size according to what the environment allows it. In the medical term, in a cancer term, When you use chemotherapy, you put too much energy in the lymph, so it grows, it becomes a bigger balloon, which cannot go through the whole of the bone to become, bone marrow. So in a way, it's like you put a gel on the whole breathing. It's just putting your hand on your mouth. You can't breathe. The same thing happens because of if you allow a small holes, you can get the oxygen through and you can breathe, or you can get air through, you can breathe. The same thing happens with bone cancer. Is a total rubbish if you understand how it works, and our work with the German hospitals has shown to be correct. We have managed to reduce the size of the lymph that the body can work, and the bone marrow operates normally, and the white cells are working the way it should do with a healthy operation. As I said, we work very correctly with a number of organizations that they assess our work outside independently, and it's proven to be correct because they've done MRI, they've done a brain test, and they know exactly what it is. But you have to understand and translate one from one dimension to another.
Where one of the issues is Lucien keeps trying to isolate the proton and electron, and if he only knew the magnetic field of that proton and electron, then he would have the secrets of the universe. But you, on the other hand...
No, it's not a secret. Mr. Keshe explained today. It's clear for me. I can tell to the other people. I understood the concept. So Mr. Keshe is creating a controlled magnetic field, tri-dimensional, and after you measure it, then you measure all the gradients and all whatever you have there. You introduce the material, what you want, copper, magnesium, whatever you want, and you map it. So you will see the absorption and the interaction, and after that you do like the DNA sequences, and you do your material table, and that's it.
Yeah,
more or less,
and so that should pretty much
simplify, right?
Hopefully that question won't come up again then, right?
Gentlemen, we have to bring this to a close because at 12 o'clock we have to shut the place down today. So I have to go out to for the things to be said. We should stop the session today because I don't have enough time.
Yeah, it's over 3.5 hours, so yeah.
3.5 hours, yeah. But after 12 o'clock here, we go into the special condition, and I have to leave for it to start moving into that position. So we say goodbye till next week.
Yes,
we'll have
definitely.
The same workshop next week.
Great, thank you.
Probably knowledge seekers from 4 or 5 different parts of the world, but we'll still be there. If they can think something while they're away, or I'll try next 3 or 4 weeks to answer more questions in depth because there's nothing happening here as a teaching session.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yes,
indeed.
thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Can I just give one message to Elia? Elia, thank you very much for your work in trying to organize the event in Bulgaria, but there's a good reason for it didn't happen. We hopefully soon we'll see it happening in a different way. Thank you very much. Bye. Goodbye.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody on live stream and on the Skype and GoToMeeting. And once again, this has been another Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the 20th one. Very auspicious. Thank you, everybody. That's it for now.
So, bye-bye.
Good night, guys.